Welcome to The Marketing Behind Rapid Growth, the podcast where we explore the strategies, decisions, and growth engines behind some of the world's most successful technology companies. Today, we're talking about Airtable. Picture a trailer parked on the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank. It's 2012. Two founders are waiting for an actor to wrap a scene on 2.5 Men. When Ashton Kutcher finally walks off set, they don't pitch him an app. They pitch him a new way of thinking about software itself. He invests on the spot. But almost everyone else in Silicon Valley would have to wait. Wait 3 years, in fact, before Airtable showed the world what it had built. In an industry obsessed with shipping fast and failing faster, this was heresy. And it's exactly where our story begins. Let's rewind further to Howie Liu's time at Salesforce. He noticed something strange. Spreadsheets, that supposedly numeric, formula-driven tool, weren't being used for numbers at all. The vast majority contained no formulas whatsoever. People were using them as makeshift databases. Wedding guest lists, inventory trackers, project boards, customer records. Excel was a calculator being used as a filing cabinet. On the other side of the software world sat tools like Salesforce and ServiceNow, powerful, relational, built for real structured data, but also completely out of reach for the average employee who just wanted to organize a list. Liu saw the gap. Not a feature gap, a category gap. Airtable's answer was elegant. Keep the grid. Everyone already understands a grid. But underneath it, build a real relational engine. Let people drag a file into a cell. Let them link one table to another. Give the tinkerer and every office worker the tools of a database engineer without ever asking them to learn the word database. They called it lowering the floor while raising the ceiling. Now, here's where the story gets genuinely bold. Airtable had built something horizontal, something that could track cattle on a ranch or manage a film production schedule. That flexibility was the whole point. But it created a dangerous problem. A tool that can do anything often feels, to a new user, like a tool that does nothing. So instead of rushing to market, Airtable spent those 3 stealth years solving that exact problem. And their answer wasn't search engine optimization, it wasn't paid acquisition, it was templates. When Airtable finally launched in 2015, nobody opened a blank canvas. They opened a solution, a content calendar, a product roadmap, an applicant tracker. The template was the education. It quietly taught people how their messy spreadsheet habits could become a structured application without ever using that word. This is the first strategic lesson of the Airtable story. Sometimes the smartest growth move isn't acquisition, it's comprehension. Get the user to understand what they're holding, and adoption takes care of itself. Product-led growth carried Airtable a long way. Teams found it, loved it, and pulled their colleagues in. But by 2017, the marketing team ran into a wall that word of mouth alone couldn't clear. The enterprise. And this is where Airtable made one of the most debated marketing decisions in SaaS history. They bought billboards. Colorful, bold billboards in San Francisco and New York. To much of the tech industry, this looked like an expensive mistake. Billboards? For a spreadsheet tool? But look closer at where those billboards went up. The meatpacking district. Neighborhoods dense with media and fashion executives. This wasn't a lead generation play. Nobody scans a billboard and signs up for a trial. This was a trust play. Think about the actual moment of friction inside a real company. A mid-level manager wants to move their entire production pipeline onto Airtable. They need a 6-figure budget approved. They walk into their VP's office and say the word Airtable. If that VP has seen the name in giant letters on their morning commute, the conversation changes instantly. The tool no longer sounds like a scrappy experiment. It sounds like infrastructure. Other serious companies already trust. That's the essence of high-signal marketing. It doesn't chase clicks. It manufactures legitimacy at exactly the moment a buyer needs permission to say yes. And Airtable paired that outward signal with something happening deep inside its customer base. The team started paying close attention to a very specific kind of user, the champion, the person who built an elaborate, elegant system on Airtable and became known for it inside their company. Airtable's marketing team realized something sharp here. Their real success metric wasn't just revenue. It was how many of their power users got promoted because of what they built on the platform. Think about what that does. That champion doesn't just stay loyal. They carry Airtable with them. From Netflix to their next job at the next streaming company. From one media company to the next. Airtable turned its customers into evangelists, not by asking them to promote the product, but by making them genuinely look brilliant in front of their own bosses. That flywheel helped push Airtable into roughly 80% of the Fortune 100. By 2021, the company had crossed decacorn territory, valued at $11.7 billion. From the outside, it looked unstoppable. Then the ground shifted. The pandemic-era growth curve began to flatten, and generative AI arrived like a tidal wave, threatening to make the entire premise of no-code tools feel outdated. A tweet went viral, built on shaky data but tapping into something real that people were feeling: Airtable is dead. The critique underneath that tweet stung because it wasn't entirely wrong. The company had scaled headcount aggressively but hadn't made its next big leap. Howie Liu's response is the most instructive part of this entire story. He didn't defend the old model, he dismantled it. 2 rounds of layoffs cut nearly half the staff. The organization refocused hard on solving the deepest, hardest enterprise problems, what Liu called the final mile. And Liu himself stepped back into the code. He became what's now known as an ICCEO, an individual contributor, CEO, personally using AI models hourly, digging through thousands of sales call transcripts himself to find the real gaps in the product. He restructured the whole company around 2 speeds: a fast-thinking team pushing out visible AI capabilities every single week, and a slow-thinking team building the unglamorous infrastructure underneath, engineering that eventually let the platform handle 100 million records. Here's the strategic bet at the center of all of it. As AI made it possible for anyone to generate raw code from a simple prompt, would tools like Airtable become irrelevant? Liu's answer was no, and his reasoning is worth sitting with. He called the alternative vibe coding. You prompt an AI, it generates some files, and for a while it feels magical. But as the app grows more complex, something breaks down. The AI loses track of its own architecture, and the non-technical person who asked for the app in the first place has no way to open the hood and fix what's wrong. Liu called this context collapse. Airtable's answer was to treat its own no-code building blocks, tables, links, automations, interfaces, as a kind of specialized language for AI to work within. Instead of asking an AI to write a database from scratch, their new tools, including Omni, SuperAgent, and HyperAgent, let the AI assemble Airtable's own battle-tested components. The user gets the speed of a prompt and the reliability of a system that can actually be inspected and adjusted. By the middle of 2025, Airtable had rebuilt itself as an AI-native platform. The agent became the primary way people interacted with the product. The classic Airtable grid didn't disappear. It became something the agent shapes on the user's behalf. So what does this story actually teach us about growth? First, define your product by what it deliberately refuses to be. Airtable never tried to out-excel Excel on number crunching. By stepping away from that fight entirely, they cleared open ground to own something Excel never could: relationships between data. Second, marketing isn't only a funnel. Sometimes its highest value isn't generating leads at all. It's generating trust at the exact moment an enterprise buyer needs the confidence to say yes. Third, in a fast-moving technological shift, leadership can't be delegated from a distance. Liu's decision to get back into the code, to use the tools himself daily, wasn't nostalgia. It was a recognition that abstract knowledge of a technology isn't enough when the technology is changing weekly. And fourth, the deep, unglamorous architecture a company builds over a decade, the primitives, the data structures, the reliability, can become the very moat that lets it survive the next wave of disruption, rather than being drowned by it. Airtable's story isn't really about a spreadsheet, or even about billboards. It's about a company that understood product-market fit as something you have to keep rediscovering, not something you find once and keep forever. From a trailer on a studio lot to an AI-native operating system for business, the mission never really changed. Give ordinary people the tools to build something extraordinary. This was the marketing behind rapid growth. See you in the next episode.